this daylight savings when it's 5 o'clock, and I know, like, I usually play in the afternoons anyways, even if I was off, and so I enjoy playing late evening golf. Now it's like I got to start that at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, so evening golf starts before noon.
Welcome back to episode 28 of the Loggerhead Golf Podcast. Finally, some nice fall winter weather we're having now that it's hopefully going to stay consistent and not go from 35 to 86 the next day.
Well, no, that's where we're at because it's supposed to be in the mid-70s like the next week.
Well,
so it's back to summer in Wilmington.
In the mornings, it's like 44 and then a high of 80.
And then with daylight saving times, rest in peace after work golf.
Just golf in general. It's the most depressing time of year for us golfers.
I say it felt weird it being dark at 5:30 last night.
That's the biggest thing, and that's kind of like what I was going to joke about. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but this daylight savings when it's 5 o'clock, and I know, like, I usually play in the afternoons anyways, even if I was off, and so I enjoy playing late evening golf. Now it's like I got to start that at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, so evening golf starts before noon.
Which stinks.
Yeah.
But
just may have to get a dry cough in the middle of the day. Take a half sick day.
I'm going to take an extended lunch. See you guys.
No appointments today.
Yeah, weather's going to be 71 and sunny. Don't know if we can squeeze you in.
Yeah, it's like yesterday. I could not have had a better day when we played. So
good for you.
Yep.
Well, excited about the fall season. So even though the days are getting shorter, the fitting bays are getting busier.
Yep.
Big part of that is a lot of these new shafts. Here at Loggerhead, we just became a premier TSPX fitter for UST. So we have access to a lot of their tour-only and tour-limited shafts, as well as Diamana Mitsubishi, from Mitsubishi Chemical, Tensei from Mitsubishi Chemical with the 1K series. So on the table here, we've got a few shafts. We're just going to tell you a little bit about the names, kind of what to expect moving forward. I think we're all really excited about this new Dart from UST.
Yeah, I was going to say,
buddy.
And so obviously going into this next upcoming season of new releases and especially drivers, we've been kind of gearing up by getting some of these more options in our shafts. So that's why we have the UST and the Mitsubishi Chemical.
Yeah, and I think with this Dart, it's going to, we've talked about it on a few older episodes of the podcast in general, but this whole people switching from steel to graphite now that the tech's better, more stable, better spin rates, and obviously, it's easier on your body. So kind of like popping down on the chair there. I think with the way they made this shaft look, it's going to appeal to a lot more people than some of the other graphite options out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we're all kind of excited for this Dart V.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, for one, we've all kind of jumped on the graphite train, so we play graphite. I say Nikki's been playing, I guess, the predecessor to this shaft, you call it? The
prototype.
Yeah, the recoil prototype. So this is a continuation of that recoil family that's been a really successful shaft family.
I say, how long has the normal recoil been out?
Whew.
Essentially, the
OG, probably early 2000s.
Well, for example, the recoil 95, 105, and 120. I mean, those have probably been out for
at least 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years. They came out with the ESX, which the ESX is that same recoil, just lighter, right? Which is probably before a lot of the newer stuff that we've seen with Acro, the most popular graphite shaft and irons, of all time.
Yeah.
What's cool with this Dart series, it's not geared to one player. We have a ton of weight options and flex options from senior flex, ladies flex, all the way up to Tour X, which is pretty cool.
Well, I would say, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen a single shaft that's come out, and let's just say extra stiff. So F5 is what UST's always said, they're X stiff in 3 different weights.
Yeah, that's what kind of is unique about
that's what's unique about this new Dart V. You can get the extra stiff in 90 grams, 105, and 120 grams. And the cool thing about that, it's not a knock on anybody, but it's that weight.
Right.
If you get a 90, it says at 90 F5, that shaft is 89 to 91 grams.
Well, what I think it also opens up by having the different weights is it opens up that player that maybe in their irons they play the 120 or the 105, but they play a driving iron or a long iron. Yeah. They don't want that heavy of a shaft. They can go a little bit lighter in the weight, have like a driving iron shaft with it, but stay in the same flex or stay in the same flex profile, the same profile of shaft and feel, just in a little bit lighter weight.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, what's different about the Dart V, Kyle, compared to the previous recoil?
With the Dart V, and what's cool is they actually put the graphic on here on all these shafts we're going to talk about. It's that TSPX. So they went to a new material in that tip section. I don't know the technical term for it, but they basically fused two materials together to make it more stable,
Right.
without the shaft feeling as harsh as, let's say, like an MMT or the LA Golf. When you get in those heavier weights, you trade a little bit of feel for the actual
Stability.
performance.
So it's kind of their answer to Velocore, if I'm not mistaken.
oh yeah,
right?
that's 100%. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I think they're calling it the M40,
M40X carbon fiber, which is what they use in their links
and then
or link
using their wood shafts.
wood shafts.
And then now everyone's kind of trying to introduce that tip stability system into irons.
And in their defense, they've got to. They've
Yeah.
got to do something. Fujikura has just dominated the market for, 3 years now?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like every victory on a professional event, they've had at least one piece of Velocore in the bag.
Now, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I guess it's not still shafts. So as much as what we have liked graphite iron shafts and play them and fit for them, why don't we see more graphite iron shafts on tour?
It's a change. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that always goes back into my head that, like, when I struck my irons the best, I played X100s, right?
Right.
So it's like part of me even thinks about myself going back to steel. And that's why, like, those best players in the world, they're obviously extremely talented. Every single professional golfer in the world is extremely talented on any level, but the best in the world are at the best at what they do based off their habits, right? So when a guy comes up and makes it to the tour and he played X100s, why would he need to get out of them? And I think that's why you don't see you rarely ever see a professional change his iron shafts. You see them change their wood shafts a bunch.
All the time, yeah.
Because they're like, if I wake up and I'm feeling weak that week, I'm going to change my driver shafts because I can.
Right.
Iron shafts, though, how long Brock O'Mediate's a perfect example. He's played the original Brunswick Rifle 7.0s. And he still plays them to this day on senior tour. And he says, because it's not about weight, it's just what he's comfortable with.
Right.
And he's like, I don't need to change. His social media platform, he's been very vocal about that, which I think is cool. So I think ultimately that's why you see a few newer guys coming out.
And so you're starting to see some sprinkle in there.
Well, the guy that's been dominating, Bryson, he plays every graphite. Victory he's had has been with graphite everything.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're finally seeing more and more players change because I think
they're starting to listen to the tech.
Well, we're getting a new
there's
group.
More options now.
We're getting a new group of golfers.
Yeah.
Well, every golfer that's coming out, especially coming out of college, they've had access to custom fitting. Mm-hmm. Now, when Rory first came out on tour, those guys, Tiger, things like that, they really didn't have many options.
Well, even if they did, they really only had X100, S400, and Project X.
Rifles.
Well, and Nippon.
Yeah. And I think in 5 shafts, they can make 2 swings with each shaft and they're going to immediately know, yep, this one.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why we're seeing it more and more. I mean, who just switched over to, I think Louis Oosthuizen just switched over to graphite
MMT.
iron shafts.
Yep.
Yeah, MMT. Abe Answer just won the Pan America.
Yeah, and he's been a long time proponent of graphite.
Yeah, he's played MMTs for the longest time. Sergio's playing LA Golf. So you're starting to see a pattern of more and more players kind of switching over. I think what you're going to see this year, which will probably be not as surprising, but I think we're going to see quite a few guys with the Axioms.
Yeah.
And then, heck, maybe this UST Dart. I love the way the recoils felt. I just wish they had a little bit more stability, and it sounds like with this new Dart V
is going to fix.
It's exactly what I look for.
So I like to your point, I think as more options become available in the graphite iron, like the high-end performance graphite iron shaft segment, more guys will start switching to it.
Well, I think the stubbornness is starting to go away too. Because at Wyndham Championship this year, I got to go up and be behind the scenes on a couple of tour trucks, and I spent a lot of time with the True Temper guys, and they're almost not giving players an option at this point. They're just building stuff and making them hit it, which I think that's kind of like from when I first got to meet Wade on the TaylorMade Tour truck, where he would just what do you want to hit versus now these
Here's
tour
what you're gonna
reps.
hit. Yeah.
Hey, this is the Denali, for example, debuted at Wyndham this year. I was in prototype, and they ran out of shafts the first morning,
Right.
Because they put a tip in everybody's hands and hit it, and they had 5 people switch that week.
I'll say there was 4 of them in the Ryder Cup using it 2 weeks later.
So I mean, I think that's the other part is now the reps themselves for these shaft manufacturers, they're not letting the players tell them what to do. They're actually, hey, we've got something that can make you better. Just give it a shot.
Yeah,
and if
give
you
it a
don't
try.
like it, great. But at least you tried.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool. Sticking with UST and kind of like the Fujikura series, we've got the Link series here, a red, a blue, and a black. So I think that's kind of the color story of shafts right now. Pretty much any shaft that's red is your high launch.
Yeah.
Any shaft that's blue is your mid launch, and any shaft that's black is your low launch.
Black
So,
or white.
yeah. So we've kind of seen this color story for 2 years now, and we can't talk about what company's making a driver and they're color coding it.
I think it's
around that.
interesting too. Is like talking about the color story. Where'd that start at? Where did the color system start with?
like red, high, blue, mid, black,
Diamante.
low.
Diamante, the
Yeah.
original Diamante series.
blue board. Yeah. White. Yeah.
Yeah, you had the blue board, white board, and red board.
And then as soon after, you had Matrix back when they were in business.
Yeah, you had the red
black
tie,
tie,
white
white tie.
Yeah.
So we're kind of seeing some repeat.
Bring back that OG black tie.
And then going into Diamante here, we've got the shaft that's, God, I think they had 9 wins with it already. The new
So
GT.
these are the shafts I'm pretty
I'll
interested
say
in. For us to have.
real quick, Kyle. What's the difference between these links here that you see in our fitting cart compared to a link that you see at a demo day, a tailor-made demo day?
Yeah, so on the shaft here, you've got something called TSPX, and then they've got this really cool, like almost light bulb logo. Like this is the real McCoy. This has the M40X. It's not proprietary. When something's proprietary, like TaylorMade and I believe Cobra, both have a shaft that looks like this, but it doesn't have that technology in the shaft.
Right.
It's unfortunate that they do that. I mean, it's something that we've seen for our entire playing careers with Diamante. They make shafts
You used to say
exclusively
exclusively
for
for. Yeah, they've gotten a little slicker with how they hide and sneak that in there. You got to pay attention to, like the Ventus series. Is one we kind of go back to.
I was gonna say the Vint is the first series, and I'm just saying this. It's not a knock on the companies themselves, and it's not like those shafts are bad.
Yeah.
It's just when
it doesn't have the technology.
Yeah,
that makes
and
the shaft that series.
and that's why we're constantly expanding our fitting offerings, is because if a company has something out there that they say is truly better, we want to have that available for someone to hit,
Right.
for them to determine themselves if it's actually better.
Yeah.
And I think the Link is a perfect example, because you see this shaft in a lot of fitting carts. If you have a demo day at your club and they think they're getting a Link shaft, I'm like, you're not.
It's got the graphic on there.
Yeah.
It's the same profile. It just doesn't have the
And it's
high-end
and it's no
carbon
different.
fiber.
We're seeing it a lot with, I would say, the Kylie series.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. You see a Kylie white, a Kylie red. What other company does
Kylie blue.
They do another color, but all 3 of those are the same shaft.
Yeah.
So it can be confusing, I would say, and that's why I just wanted to clear up.
Well, I think that's the
These-
education that we're constantly doing in the fitting bay is, well, why is this Ventus included and this one's $350?
Yeah, because this one has Velcro.
Well, this
Velocor.
one is painted to look like the Velocor, but it doesn't have Velocor in it.
Yeah,
So
still a good shaft. I mean, that's the nice thing, but it's what. And I also say too, for the listeners, what do all 3 of these shafts have in common?
weight and options too.
Yeah, I would say they're all low spin.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of that. In the past, everyone had mid spin shafts, low, and then higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're seeing now is a lot of shaft companies coming out. No matter what, with the modern golf ball and the modern drivers, they're trying to make every shaft low spin.
It's like the same kind of thing we see in the Diamante
Yeah.
series too.
Yeah,
There's
so
not
I
really
think
a
for
high spin
ease
shaft
of
in it.
mind, because I have a lot of people that come in the bay that ask me, it's like, well, is that a spinny shaft? I'm like, all these are low spin.
Yeah.
It's just they're made to load in different areas to promote a different ball flight,
Right.
different launch conditions, which is nice. Now, obviously, Project X still has some mid spin shafts with the
Yeah.
RDX series,
Yeah.
but I mean, for the most part, with these high end shafts that have the tip stability, they're all going to be low spin. So that's comforting, because if I wanted to go in and chase a specific ball flight, I'm like, you know what, let's get that ball in the air a little more. I don't have to worry about
adding a bunch of spin on that.
Yeah, because in the past, that's what would have happened.
Which is what we've seen, and I'll use myself as a guinea pig here, how I've transitioned from when Ventus came out, I played Ventus Black.
Tip 2 inches.
Yeah, well, goes without saying. And then we tried, the TR series came out, so I started playing the Ventus Blue TR, and I liked that. That's traditionally I've always considered too high a spinning shaft for me, but I don't spin it any more than the black. And then now I'm playing a 50-gram X-Flex 10C 1K Blue, which is, again, another shaft I would have never even thought about playing, just because it's a blue is a mid-spin shaft, but it's not. They're all low spin.
Yep.
And and I've even experimented with Ventus Red.
I was going to say, if you weren't playing that blue and that blue wasn't working so perfect with your new setup,
the Ventus Red would be
be in the bag.
So don't be afraid to give a different shaft
By the
a
way,
try.
Caleb has finally gone the forgiving route. TSR2 just has no loft on it.
Yeah. If it works,
Ride that horse, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Cool.
Well, I think, on the opposite end, for the higher launching, higher spinning guys too, as we have that option now.
Yeah.
With the Brava series from BGT, the nickname for this shaft's the Autoflex Killer because, it's half the price.
Right.
So not $1,000 just to get a bright pink shaft that we'll plead the fifth on some of that stuff. And what's cool with Brava is they have a couple different weights, but you've got this really,
it's soft.
It's super soft, but when then you get down here in this tip section, it's really stable.
It doesn't feel soft when you swing it.
And you can pull it out of your golf bag without the handle breaking.
Right.
Which is one step above the other guy there. And I think this is a market that has exploded.
Yeah. I was going to say, and we didn't get on the table, but we also have the Vanquish in Mitsubishi Chemical, which is a very lightweight shaft, but super stable.
Mm-hmm. And that Vanquish has been around for a while. They've just kind of added that modern stability system into it, which the Vanquish shaft is probably, if I wanted to try something this winter, I think I am going to go lighter. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not able to play as much, so going to be a little tighter, things like that. Now, cool thing about this Brava, they were known for what, Kyle?
Putter shafts.
Putter shafts, right? So their BGT is who makes the Brava and Breakthrough Golf Technology, and they kind of killed it with stability shafts for the longest time. Then they came out with some stability wedge shafts.
Yeah, the Zen.
And then now they were like, you know what, let's get into
the driver
fairway, which I like how they didn't try doing what other companies have already perfected. Mm-hmm. They were like, you know what, let's go.
Let's find our niche.
Let's find and that niche only had one other option in it. And I think it's really cool. And I think especially if you always felt like you're struggling with a little bit of distance, centerness of contact in general, that's where I would try one of these shafts, because this shaft is made to load different for every single swing.
Yeah.
So therefore, you might be able to square it up a little easier, ultimately hit it in the center of the face. That's always going to lead to more distance.
Right.
I like to call it the fly swatter.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but you can, with this shaft, because they make it extra stiff all the way down to ladies, and just hitting in the bay and the X-Flexes, it's effortless to actually get speed with it.
Yeah.
But unlike the Autoflex, I don't feel like I'm going to break it on my downswing.
Right.
And when I hit the ball, I don't feel the face move. Like with this one, it's so much more stable. So you still get that whippy feel or that fly swat effect.
And not to knock Autoflex.
I think Autoflex is going to come out with a new competitor to this. I think because Autoflex did kill it.
I was like, for its market, its niche, it's an awesome shaft.
I just think they need to fix the.
I think that what they need to work on
how it holds up.
Well, is right how it holds up, because they really don't recommend playing any higher than like a D0 swing weight with the Autoflex, and so it can really feel lose track of the head, especially as flexible as what that shaft is.
Like imagine, you can't put an Autoflex in a modern ping driver.
The head weights, it'd be really hard.
Yeah. But I think Autoflex will come out with something that competes with this.
Yeah.
But honestly, this kind of has my head spinning right now, because I've been playing the same driver shaft now for probably the longest I've ever have, and It's been well over a year.
A year?
I'll say it's been well over a year. Like no,
Y'all make fun of me for changing all the time.
You've had 10 driver setups.
Okay, because all right, let's preface this. And this is why I said I was really interested in the Diamana. Of course, now I found a Tennessee Blue that I like, but
which we don't have on the table, but we do have all the new Tennessees.
Tennessee 1Ks.
The 1Ks.
I played Diamana, the original Diamana whiteboard for like 10, 12 years. Love that shaft.
I haven't been playing golf for 10, 12.
Well, you grow up. And to be quite honest, like being a Titleist staff player, I've always played Titleist drivers.
Yeah.
It just kind of matched really well. But when they started doing the TS series, the head weights got a little lighter in the Titleist. And so that 76 gram extra stiff shaft with that whiteboard just didn't work anymore. It became too low a swing weight. So I started trying to find something that felt like the whiteboard, but gave me the swing weight I preferred playing. That's why I've been having to change so much. Is trying to find that old feel again. That's why I've tried Ventus Black, Ventus Blue, Ventus Red.
I don't think we got time to go down the full list.
LAGP, the DG series. We've tried some things, but I think I found something now.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be an exciting winter in the Bay with all these new shafts plus some other stuff that's coming soon in the Bay. So
Yep. So it'll be a busy winter. And I think if you're thinking about upgrading your bag, you come see us this winter because we may
even
have
if it's
some
not
new-
changing the head, it might be a new shaft.
Yeah. And I think that's what's becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen in the testing bay, I mean, if a company is putting out new stuff, head-wise, we're only going to actually, you might see a couple miles per hour here or there. If your driver's, at least within the last 2 years. And if you love the shape of your driver, it never hurts to see. It's like, can I find just a little bit better shaft?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that goes without saying for every club.
Yeah. Can I change the feel?
Yep.
Yeah.
now hear me out.
Okay.
I've got a bold one this morning.
All right.
So a little bit of a conspiracy theory.
Do I need to put my tin hat on?
Maybe.
Okay.
I think LIV was created intentionally by the tour.
By the PGA Tour.
A little bit.
So a mole in the PGA Tour created LIV.
I think it was all intentional to draw attention to golf at its highest peak that we've seen in 25 years.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what's going on now there's other offers to buy the PGA Tour out of this PIF deal, right?
Right.
So now this whole LIV merger's falling apart per Q.
Yeah.
It's falling apart as they're just joining hands together. And now we've got 6 other parties interested in doing it. And what starts in 2 weeks?
What?
TGL.
Oh, yeah. Tigers League.
So if we just break it down, LIV has teams, right?
Right.
So regardless if it's outside or inside, they have teams. The teams each have their own logos, their own names, and they got to pick their players.
Technically, they own their own team.
Yeah.
So then we go to TGL. So again, it's indoors, but let's leave that out.
So dumb.
Well, all the same people that made fun of LIV and that hated on LIV, they have team names and team logos and pick their players. And it's just on a different day of the week.
So I brought this up the other day, and I made a comment. I was like, anybody that's saying the PGA Tour wasn't involved in getting TGL off the ground,
Oh, yeah, for sure they were.
you're lying.
But
That's just being
LIV,
naive.
this is a different.
But I know LIV,
This is
but
a different thing. I'm gonna counter your point by saying if you're the PGA Tour and you have a literal monopoly on the world's professional golf, why would you create your own competitor then? Money. You think they can?
It's
you
an
think
additional revenue
It's not going to
source.
pull some of their stars from them. It's not going to pull any of their
It did.
ad revenues.
Intentionally. So if you look at, I would say 80% of LIV.
Yeah.
At the start, not saying currently, but at the start, it was your peak players that we all grew up watching. Your peak players.
Mm-hmm.
That drew, back when Graham McDowell was winning, the U.S. Open. You've got Lee Westwood, who was winning still. I mean, you've
Ian Poulter,
Bubba Watson, Sergio Garcia.
they had more major champions than 90% of PGA Tour
Correct.
events have
So
the past 2 years
You've got
in their field.
elite players who have been elite for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Or 15 plus years. Dustin Johnson's another one. 13 seasons now on PGA Tour.
It's hard to believe he's been on the PGA Tour for so long.
So think about it in that aspect. You have all your players who were elite. I'm not saying they're not. And then you've got the 20% of their...
You've got kind of your 2010s, and now you got your 2020s on PGA Tours. It's kind of what
new models.
Yeah.
and then you had to mix it up a little bit. So you get Bryson, you get Abraham Monster, you get some of these young guns.
Yeah.
So you're feeding, basically, it's almost like creating another tour, essentially. I think at some point that's what it'll end up being, because you get rid of the Dell match play, you get rid of all these match play events, these team events, but now we've got a whole nother side tour for team events.
Right.
So it's kind of like you've got your European tour, but then underneath the European tour, you had, the Asian tour, the Japan tour. You've got these micro tours. So
I don't know. Maybe we get Jay Monahan on here and ask him.
I don't think you'd legally want to answer.
I say next podcast I might need to wrap my head around what you're saying, because I mean it makes
So
sense.
what you're saying is a PGA Tour essentially sabotaged themselves with the LIV
for them to be bought for more money,
right? To end up selling for more money, right?
Yeah.
That's a big conspiracy. I don't know. I like it.
Well, I wouldn't say.
That's like what some companies do when they bankrupt themselves.
Well, that's
bigger,
what
better,
it is. It's not an insurance scam legally, but think of it in that aspect is we're going to get rid of some of our key players who aren't doing as much on tour anymore. Let's develop our Max Homas, let's develop this new Starfield.
Oh, I know.
Now we've got two sources of revenue.
I think we'll come back to that because what we should come back next podcast. We need to talk about this TGL. We don't have time. Yeah. I honestly don't know what it is, but
does anybody yet?
There's teams.
Now there's referees.
There's teams. There's referees. Like I don't know what's going on. Someone might have a whistle out there. I don't know. They just need to know what's targeting and what's not targeting.
So that's something for you guys to chew on for a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it. I like where your head's at.
Well, cool. Well, to close her out, you want to lead us in?
I guess we're our show and tell segment. And we still haven't quite figured out what we're going to call this yet. Tentative name is show and tell. We have come up with a ranking system for it now. We have our ranking system. We're going to have par, birdie, bogey. So par is it's cool, but it has not really got us excited.
It's not moving the needle.
Yep, it's not moving the needle.
Interesting.
Birdie it's cool and it is moving the needle. Like we think it's pretty interesting. Bogey it still might be cool, but it ain't quite our cup of tea. All right, and then we have our polar opposites. We're going to have shank. It's just a total miss. Okay, for whatever reason it's a shank. Okay, and then we have our on the opposite end of that, the really good side of that, we're going to call it striped. Okay, so that's just a flush dead center hit. That's
almost as good as a hot dog at the turn.
Almost as good as a glizzy. Okay, so keep that in mind. What we're going to do is take a look at some photos here, and we're going to rank them par, birdie, bogey, and then we might throw a shank or a striped in there. We don't know yet.
Okay.
All right, what do y'all think?
Par.
Give it a par. Why are you giving it a par? Come on, convince me that it's a par.
Because it's boring.
It's boring.
If you look at Scotty Cameron in the early 2000s, back when he did your My Girls, your Holidays, like your limited head covers, they put a lot of effort into it. And I think the last 2 years into these theme putters and these themed head covers, it doesn't seem like a lot of effort goes into it anymore. Like the classic Scotty Cameron grinder head covers or the Jackpot Johnnies, it's a knockoff of Monsters, Inc.
I'm going to call this.
So I think that's what they're trying to do.
Caleb, I'm going to go ahead and say this is a bogey.
This is a bogey?
I think this is a bogey. Because I can't be convinced that this putter just wasn't made on a computer. Like this is just a made photo.
So it's not even a real putter.
I don't think it's a real putter.
Okay.
I think, yes, they put this up for Halloween. Wow, that's cool. You can't convince me that it's a real putter itself.
So y'all think it's a par or a bogey?
Because think, you can put a Santa Claus head cover behind it next to put the, red, green, Christmas tree.
Well, and that's
in the
what
middle.
the holiday putter used to be, and they just don't do it anymore.
I hear y'all's input, and I'm going to go with shank. Now, as big a fan as I like Scotty Cameron putters, but I think it's a shank. They total missed opportunity here to do one of those little oogle eyes that move around and wiggle around. If it had done that, it might have been a strike.
That means we're on the same page because Kyle just said par because Kyle's like, I respect the craftsmanship. I think it's a miss because you can't convince me. Like honestly, Miles, you could go on the computer and make that yourself, right? If you had a picture of a Scotty Cameron.
Yeah. I think if they could have done the oogle eye, they got it on the head cover, right? Yep. If they had it in the putter, that'd have been cool right there.
Especially they already got the little white felt. I know they put a blue light on it to make it look different, but make it look like fall.
Next one.
But I remember my first golf club.
Those are older than all of us. That's a birdie for me.
Birdie?
Yeah, I love that retro look. Obviously, we've been fortunate to, on our YouTube channel, have a persimmon challenge. So the feel of hitting a persimmon and that little red dot that's right there, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, I would probably say birdie or par. I don't know much about old clubs. I just like hitting them. You guys got to educate me.
There's nothing that really replaces persimmon, quite honestly. I'll give it a birdie. I'm going to go with you guys. I think these are, I say grands. Are these Mizuno grands? Yeah.
Mizuno. Never mind, that makes sense.
These were nice.
Question is, how flat were those lie angles? Then that might change my answer.
It looks pretty flat right there.
But
all right, so we'll give it a birdie. All right, let me hear what y'all think on these.
Considering that we both got skunked on the left shoe, Kyle, I'm going to say they're a bogey because I didn't get selected. There's too many bots in the selection system. That's the Travis Scott edition.
That's the one you had to prove you hit it 200 yards by. Right?
No, well, a shop that's selling them in the UK is doing that, which I think is amazing. But no, it's a lottery system. So like you get selected possibly that you can then go buy the shoe, which we both got denied.
I would say, not because I got denied, I would say it's a shank, in between a shank and a bogey.
Okay.
Almost like a double bogey.
So you're just going to say bogey then?
Yeah, because the golf shoe itself on the left is actually pretty comfortable to swing in. However, this shoe, which was supposed to be limited based off of Travis Scott.
His last Nike shoe.
It's Nike has turned into more fashion than actual golf. I mean, they can't even make a shoe for Tiger. But the reason why I say that is if you were an influencer, you got these shoes, no problem. So they made this item that's supposed to be super hard to get, super rare. But if you're an influencer, they send them out so you could wear them in every video. So your Michael Blocks, your Trotties, like they're all wearing these shoes.
The who you know's got the
Correct.
shoes.
So it went from being an elite shoe that was a lottery chance to if you have a social media platform and you're an influencer.
Which Jordan has always done really good at.
Correct.
Of like limited edition runs of shoes.
Right.
That even if you're DJ Khaled, like
you couldn't get them. You had to go through the system.
Yeah,
I'm gonna piss all your 2000s kids off. Shank, I don't like them. I've never liked any of the Jordan golf shoes. I think they look weird.
So
they don't look like golf shoes. They don't feel like golf shoes.
I've been wearing.
Shank, let's go to the next one.
I've been wearing the same shoe, and they're a birdie because of how comfortable they are.
Good for you.
And Swing Cat tells me that it's the right shoe for me.
Well, I don't like them. Shank.
The TVDs.
Par.
it's par.
Move the needle.
No, it doesn't move the needle.
Yeah.
We glued on some ferrules and
Somebody's last three letters of their name are ski.
Wow.
There must be Polish. My best friend growing up has last name.
All right, so we got Kyle's a birdie. It's not really, or a par. It's not really moving the needle for him.
kind of basic. So.
I'll say those are the TVDs, which that's right before they came out with wedge work. So it was actually the first kind of wedges that came out of Titleist's tour department that maybe Aaron Dill got his hands on, or Vokey himself in creating the grinds. I'm going to go with a birdie just because of that. Okay. As far as the ferrules, I don't love, but you know,
that wouldn't be my pick. But
I like the middle one. Is that like is it white or is it pink?
I think it's white. I'm gonna say for starters, these are probably SM4s because they got the CC stamp, so they got the condition of competitions. These came out right in 2010. I've got a set of these.
Yeah, I know you do.
And they're the raw, rusty ones. I'm gonna give this a birdie.
I will say this: why is the raws on the old wedges like just so much different than this modern raw?
I don't know for sure, but I think they may have changed the steel they're using.
There is a difference because I was just thinking about this the other day when I was wiping off one of my wedges. I was like, I don't ever remember like my old Vokeys, my raws that I had, getting this slick.
I know they used to always say they used either 1020 or 1025 carbon steel, and I think they may have gone to a different.
There's something different
steel,
on in the wedge.
Right?
Margin building still.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. It's from a metallurgy standpoint, the carbon content. Well, what it really means is how much can a steel be heat treated and hardened. And so typically in golf clubs, we use a fairly low carbon content steel so they stay soft.
Yeah.
Now within that, there's 1,000 different variants of low carbon steels. But birdie.
shank. So gross. So gross. I wanted to like that club so much because it was like adjustable driving
I think you feel
iron,
personally offended by this.
adjustable driving iron. And then when those came out and I took them out to hit,
You couldn't get a flat enough fly angle, could you?
no. But not only that, like you always felt like the adapter was moving.
Yeah.
In them, like it just felt very clicky, and they were just a huge miss for me. I think the modern Stealth is really good,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's a bogey. I
Bogey.
don't miss building these things. When they first
Oh
came
my
out,
gosh.
we had a low, mid, high.
Yeah.
So they had this whole like shaping
they were a
series.
shaft breaker.
Not only did they break a lot of shafts, it was kind of like this is right when speed foam was in its like early stages.
Infancy, yeah.
And the tour ones were actually bonded. So
Yeah.
the last one of this I actually built was for Akshay Bhatia before he left TaylorMade. They were all bonded because the tour guys with the adapter were breaking it, and where they were placing the weight,
Yeah.
it was changing the CG location.
Yeah.
So all the guys on tour that played this didn't play the retail version. They played a tour only bonded version.
Right.
Yeah, because if you put all the weight towards the toe, like what a better player would want, that adapter is going to get.
So I actually had this club in the bonded version with the Even Flow 110 Proto.
Satur.
And then, and that green weight was silver. And even like with all that, it was not my favorite
I
compared
want to
to
have
UDI.
to
Shank.
Yeah, it's a shank.
Yeah.
and it's a shank for this reason here. That we don't have the top line profile, but it's
Thick.
yeah,
She was thick.
yeah. It being somebody that still plays, these longer irons and still play a drive. I cannot stand to see the backside of the golf club at address.
And that was the issue with like the mid and the high.
Yeah,
It was
so-
a hybrid. And I would say from
to me, the
TaylorMade.
mid and highs looked better because they were more hybrid, and
Well,
it
that's
made
true.
sense to have a little bigger head shape.
No, the
But
only
this
thing,
one, it needed to be little-
that's a
little
birdie
smaller.
on that club is that those came out with the very first iteration of the KBS Tour Graphite Iron Tour Proto shafts.
Yep.
That club introduced those
But
shafts.
we don't know what shaft this one has in it.
No,
so it's
you
a
can
shame.
tell by that matte finish.
This is where TaylorMade's made the biggest improvement. Their driving irons now are 10 times better than what Gapper was.
Yeah, the stealth looks better.
Can I get that GAPR?
Cool. Shank.
All right,
Awesome.
we got to wrap this
Were
up.
we too hard on those? Or all right.
Better stuff. We need more.
We got some special guests coming on next episode.
Yep.
Both myself and Caleb will be traveling next week. I'll be at Ping headquarters, and Caleb, we wish you good luck as you travel to Florida to play in your tournament.
Appreciate it.
We're going to have Afterwork Golf Club on here soon on our next episode. Really excited to introduce you to the crew there and kind of, how they tie in with our brand and what we do here.
Yeah. Should be a lot of fun.
So if you guys haven't already, like and subscribe and turn on those push bell notifications, and we'll see you next week.